Yes, 30 minutes, but minor margin of error. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for stopping by. Welcome back to the lab. Welcome to another episode of Medj is Insanely Tired. But I wanted to write some code anyway, damn it. How's everyone doing this morning? Good morning, Theo. Thank you very much for basically, at this point, Theo, I would like to think that you are just the consistent QA. You are constantly coming in and ensuring that certain features remain working, and I am so thankful for it. Good morning, Dry Bones. Thank you so much for stopping by. Welcome to the lab. How you doing, mate? It is indeed morning. It's 8:25, so it's not terribly early, but it was a long night for me, so I am a little fogged. That typical that typical feeling of clunk, but we'll get there. The important features: Cthulhu, Sorkin, Spooky shoutouts. I also wanted to do I had a couple of shoutouts that I wanted to cycle through, like a shout out for guitar and so forth, but haven't quite gotten there yet. Let's see here. So let's go ahead and jump over to the code view. So I am still in the process of working on building out the alert box. This is something that doesn't currently work in Streamlabs right now, for me at least. I've just lost all alerts. I see them, which thank God for OBS having a preview window. Otherwise, I probably would never see any of these alerts that are coming through, which makes me very sad. But let's see here. Let's take a look real quick. So I did finally merge the PubSub Redux channel for Channel Points channel, the PubSub Redo pull request for Channel Points. Basically because I managed to get everything that I wanted into that PR. So just to call it out, some of the changes that we had. So we moved the bot client interface into its own file, since at this point it's becoming more ubiquitous, as we have IRC, we have PubSub. Eventually we're going to have Event Sub, so something that we're going to have to consider. We have a very basic channel point handler. At least at the moment, all we're really doing is logging things out. So something that I would like to look into, as I think there's not really a lot of channel point redemptions that I could necessarily automate. Perhaps the Alt F4, which would be dangerous, but maybe we could do it. Let's see here. We added a future state for what we think channel points configuration is going to look like. Right now, it's just a mapping, if you will, from the title of the channel point redemption, the type of reaction that we're going to have, which in this case would be response, and then a message format of, if it's a response, then here's what you're going to see. What else did we do? We brought back some of the PubSub code, although I kind of like the new way, personally. Let's see here. Lurking because I do be doing math homework. That's fair. Thank you so much for the lurk, Dry Bones. I appreciate it, and thank you so much for the host as well. The Code Mystic has returned. Shining Sun, bro. Thank you so much for stopping by. How you doing, mate? But yes, I am very keen on the way that the new PubSub code has come out. It's more or less the exact same. It's not the exact same. Sorry, it's actually better in my opinion than the way that it came out before. We've got our channel point redemption for JSON. We've got our PubSub client, which in my opinion is much cleaner now. Still got a little bit, or had a little bit of weirdness on the max message size, but I think we fixed that. Let me see if I can find it. Yep, there it is. So when we're converting this to a string, we are trimming out all of the null bytes, which was the -x00 character error that we were running into from before. We were basically passing around a null character to places where we didn't need a null character. And we were doing so because, well, we were making a byte buffer that was 2048 characters, but we weren't filling it fully. So what do we fill it with? Well, for bytes, we fill it with null bytes. And I completely forgot about that. So that's now been fixed. The ping pong feature is also working. So now it's just a ticker every 4 minutes, which I really should update that, but we'll get there. We send the ping. We don't check for pong. We don't check for reconnect. What we need to do is we do need to build in some resilience to some of these clients to reconnect should we run into that code, which we had previously, or at least we had a first attempt at it. But yeah, I think if I remember correctly, we needed something a little more sophisticated, I think. And thanks to the suggestion of Really Frank, one of our viewers, have a much easier way of extracting information about this wildly different JSON response, which is super cool. So yeah, I like it. I like the way that it's turned in. I think if we ever expand this, we can add more handlers to it, should we choose. But I'm choosing not to. At least I'm not choosing to rewrite everything into PubSub, at least not at the moment. Doing wondrously. How have you been? I've been doing good, Sunbro. Thank you so much. It's been a long night, so I'm a little exhaustion fogged, but same thing. I just had a desire to code today. I have a desire to code every day, but well, most every days. Most every day. There we go. There you go. I am speaking code, not English. Haha. And finally, I did get a very quick PubSub test. So this was in the same style as how I was doing IRC testing. We just have a very simple test to ensure that we are receiving those messages via IRC, we are serializing them accordingly, and we are sending that off to the bot. Oh, thank you, Sunbro. I appreciate it. So in this case, we are creating a fake WebSocket. We are doing, well, actually, I just realized we're not actually doing any, we're not doing any auth check here, which is something that we need to do. And yes, cursed be to JSON stringified messages. Just saying. Because this is what the JSON looks like. And then we get to message. And message is this giant JSON string. It's also very poorly indented. But luckily, though, this works. It does, yeah. It just works. We test to make sure that we get a message from the bot. We make sure that it is a point redemption. If it's not, we fail. We ensure that the amount matches the cost. And we ensure that the title matches the redemption title. Now, I ripped this JSON directly from Twitch's own documentation. I did not handwrite that. So there's a couple of tests that are happening inside of this integration test. Additional fields, things that we want, things that we don't want, which is kind of nice. The JSON stringification side of it. So thankfully that is working. And yeah, we've got a pretty decent set of tests, all in one. And let's see here. And I also, because of the linting tools, which are now in my face about it, which is fantastic, I also did some updates on things like documentation comments and so forth. So yeah, that PR has been merged. Brain just folded on itself. Hang on. Good morning, Rockerade. Thank you so much for stopping by. Welcome to the lab. Yes, we have tests. Was JTV a Want to Become Famous bot? No, that was when Drybones hosted the channel. I think he hosted it through JTV. So the bot does not discriminate. If I remember correctly, let me see if I can find it. Shining Sombro. There it is. It's probably safe to add JTV to the ignore list, I think. Brain segmentation fault at synapse number exit code 1. I got an exit code 1? Yo. Usually I get an exit code 42. Upgrades. But yes, I think probably the easiest thing to fix that would just be to add JTV to the ignore. We want ignored. There we go. To do, implement proper exit codes. Nah. Ledger.put, JTV. JTV. I think there's something going on with my V key. Let me check this real quick. Minor keyboard surgery in the middle of stream. My apologies. Opportunity to bring the plank out though. There it is. Got it. All right. Just doing some minor surgery to make sure that that key is still working. Feels like it is. This click is activating and whatnot. Oh, there is something underneath the keycap. Tilly's just like hanging out behind me. Let's see here. So yeah, what I was thinking of doing. Nice. What I was thinking of doing for today is one of the things that is kind of a blocker today, and I won't be able to work on it on stream, but I did want to at least talk through it. One of the things that that currently is a pain in the ass is OAuth and the process of getting an OAuth token. There it is. Good morning, Really Frank. Thanks so much for stopping by, mate. Welcome back to the lab. How you doing? Welcome to keyboard surgery in the middle of stream. Think that's working? Find out. All right, so that part's still working. Just like barely tapping V. V appears to be working. All right. Sweet. So now in theory, we can restart that. How's that? All right. So again, this is something that I probably won't be able to work on stream as, oh, excuse me, 1 second. Ouch. So, as the challenge with working, oh, that's kind of stuck. There we go. Cheap IKEA cabinets for the fail. As the challenge with working on the OAuth feature is that I'll basically be sitting there leaking keys, which is not great. But this is something that has come up now multiple times, I think. And it also came up the other day in trying to do testing on another stream where I've gone past with PubSub. I've gone past this this kind of simplicity with the bot, where the bot at the moment can connect as me to any channel, as long as I exist in Twitch and I'm not banned. I can connect to any channel. The bot can basically operate on my behalf, and I can use all of the functionality that we've built up to this point. I can have all of that built in without any changes, and that's just using the preceded access token, which is kind of nice. But PubSub throws a wrench into that equation, it seems, because or at least what I tried doing in a couple of cases is I tried PubSubbing to another channel, but my OAuth token doesn't have rights on that channel. And so there was this kind of interesting recognition of the bot works for me, and it works for me so long as I don't touch PubSub, even if I go to other channels. But it doesn't work the minute that I try to go outside of the channel with PubSub. So in order for this to be usable by, other people, yeah, we would we would have to do, I think, some pretty interesting things. Have I looked at OAuth Playground? Ooh. Now, what is this? Ooh, this is interesting. I have not seen this before, and I am intrigued. We'll have a developer account at the service and answering some questions about your application. For the purpose of this demo, we don't require that you sign up for an account. Okay. So, really, Frank, what am I looking at? I am intrigued. How does that work with other bots? Do they use their own bot account with an OAuth key? Correct. So effectively, in order to use the bot, just like how, say, Sorcery has Renebot, and there are other bots in the system that are not Nightbot, such as bots that allow you to have their own names. In order to do that, if I remember correctly, you basically have to create a bot account, generate credentials. You give those credentials over, and then the bot basically assumes the identity of that new bot. Same bot underneath, different different access token and different nickname, if I remember correctly. So like if in Twitch, if I were to register a Medgebot account, then yeah. Sorry, my brain just fried itself. You would create I would create a Medgebot Twitch application with a client ID and secret associated to it, and then generate credentials and run from there. Nickname would become Medgebot, and the access token would come from there. So that's what we're doing right now, Feel. But the PubSub feature doesn't work that way, as far as at least I've seen. Because because PubSub is channel based with this whole channel ID, the OAuth token has to be authorized to your account, I think. At least, again, this is the way that I've understood it. If I am misunderstanding it, which is highly plausible, then that would be awesome. But yeah, that's what we've been doing so far. I don't have a bot account running as Medge Labs. It's just my account. Let's see here. You can write some OAuth 2 code against a simulated server, so no fear of leaking stuff. And once your code is ready, then switch it to the real OAuth provider. Ooh. Okay. Now the question, though, Twitch, OAuth. I remember looking into this like 4 or 5 times, and I can never remember what Twitch's OAuth process looks like. Might not be useful to use, so you could use. I mean, I like it. I like the idea of it. Yeah. Oh wow. A new OAuth 2 client was created for you along with the user account. You can see the registration info below. It's stored in a cookie, since you'll need those in order to authenticate as that user. That's kind of cool. Okay. I mean, let's see here. Oh, well, yeah. All right, so we're going to put that over there. Cool. Oh, I see. Huh. That's kind of cool. I'm going to look into that. Might, oop. Ah. Someone is at the door. 1 second. And I'm back. Sorry about that. Yes, indeed, it was the SWAT. It was a SWAT team, but they were looking for a very different individual, somebody that actually, is a threat to society. So they kept going. No, it's they came to the door, and I just went, "But why? Would you really harm me? Really?" So they might be looking for their alien. Now that is more reasonable. I don't know what you're talking about, Fuel. I don't have a disguise. Let's see here. I can't connect my bot through my own account. I just can connect my streaming account. Yep, that sounds about right. And I think that's how a lot of these bots actually work. At least the ones that are simplified. But for something like PubSub, very tied to the channel, which is admittedly fair, all things considered. It does kind of cut down on the number of bots that are they're doing shenaniganery, which is nice. All right, so there's a thing. Authentication. To quickly get a token for your account, use the Twitch chat OAuth password generator. Simplicity's sake. And it should have chat read and chat edit, which is fair. And then I think we went down this path before of... We tried to do I think it was the machine to machine or app access tokens, maybe? Was it? Yeah, I feel like I went through this before. Now, is this the thing? Yeah, okay. So I need to write this down. Like, oh, maybe. I'm allergic to OAuth. Set of claims about the end user using OIDC gives you details about your user for a particular authorization. These details are represented by claims in the ID tokens payload. All well and good, but which is, I believe app access tokens was not usable for IRC, I think. But I do remember trying. Token expiration is based on the blah. Token returns and expires in field. Yeah, you should build your applications in such a way that they are resilient to token failures, also known as retry. Retry, redo. Should not need to know how long the token will live. Should be prepared to deal with the token becoming invalid at any time. Allow for sessions to be refreshed. Yes. Access tokens and ID tokens. App access tokens and ID tokens cannot be refreshed, which would effectively be I need to get a new access token, and therefore I need to go through the auth process, which would require this process that I am trying to automate. Ow. Yeah, we definitely went down this path like 500 times. Which is fine, all things considered. The challenge is that I don't remember which Twitch IRC off token. A token by server way. No, that is not possible because you are connecting to chat as an app. You're connecting to chat as a Twitch user. If you want to connect to chat anonymously, you can use the login JustinFan12345. Eh? But you won't be able to send any messages. So we can read messages, but we can't send messages. That's silly. Hmm. Yes. OAuth authorization code. Oh, it's gone. But, well, lame. OAuth authorization code flow. Yes, yes. So in theory, it's saying that it will work. Oh, no, that's right. This is the version that okay, I'm remembering this now. Hang on. So, OAuth authorization code flow. If I remember correctly, what this does is it opens up a separate window, or it requires you to open up a separate window to authorize the token. Yeah. I remember this. Yep. Request is made at the token endpoint. The token includes a state parameter. If it was in your request, in our example, we do this. In your server, you get an access token by making this request. And you get a response with the access tokens. And then off you go. Now, the thing that caught me about this, let me see. I think there was a way to continually refresh the token to ensure that it always stays valid. And that assumption would effectively be like, hey, if I don't have an access token and a refresh token available, then I basically am in the dead zone and I have to request access credentials again. You know, automating this is continuing to be a pain in my ass. Oh, sorry. Oh, I even saw the pub sub messages in the background. Thank you for the hydrate and the stretch fuel. Fresh coffee. Fresh coffee, and there's a whole carafe of it sitting next to me, waiting to be drank. Drunk? Drinking? No. Well, that I love going down this rabbit hole, because every time that I do, it reminds me of how shite that feature is. All right. Well, fine. We'll ignore that for now. So, okay, what do we want to do? What do we want to work on? That's the real question. What do we want to work on? So we have a couple of features. And oh yeah. All right. We have a couple of features that I have been wanting to work on for a little while now in regards to notifications and alerts. That's not what I need. I need oh dear. Let's quit out of that because I accidentally broke the fuzzy find window. And I think it was on server subs handler. Yes. Yeah. So, at least with the alerts, and I'm still working on this on a separate work stream. There are two elements to the on-screen alerts, if you will. Getting triggered by the event, I would say is pretty much ready to go based on the fact that it's kind of built into the state of the bot. Like as long as we get a notification for say a sub or bits or anything of that nature, then we get that event. That event goes to the bot. Now the thing that we haven't accounted for yet is this like a connection from the bot to this endpoint. So we have one side of the equation and we have a view side of the equation, but we don't have the thing connecting those two together. And I think that was going to be one of my curiosities was how do I connect that pipe together? I think I might need to draw this out. Get the handy dandy iPad, aka my whiteboard, and let's see here. Stream. There you are. Stream. Matchbot. Oh yes, I am going to need. Oh god, that's still borked. Yay! It's still borked. I hate it. You know what? I am going to attempt to edit this in real time because that is actually bothering me. Oof. Oof. There we go. Okay, I remember how I did this before now. So we do transform, edit transform, and then we do 14. 1440? Yeah, I think is how I did that. But boop. Yay, now secrets is working again. Boop, 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 boop. Still looks like shite, but I mean, you know. You can't win them all. All I'm doing is starting up a random Zoom meeting. So we are not going to join audio. We are not going to join video. We are going to share iPhone, iPad via AirPlay. Which is still such a cool bloody feature, just saying. Like Zoom is basically pretending to be an Apple TV. That is so cool. You bring that back down, bring the secrets off. Whiteboard. Such a good feature. All right. So this is where we were at last time. We were looking at how to do the what was this? The metric store. So now we're talking about the pipe, the full pipe from request down to well, what would be an on-screen alert. So alerts. Again, you get to see my terrible handwriting. So where we're at right now is that we have something like IRC. And IRC publishes we'll call it a sub. event. And in that sub event, we'll say we have feel months 5. Some event. So that gets sent to the bot. Which then routes it to the sub handler. So these boxes look like shite. The magic of autocorrect tools. So we've got that part. That part is working more or less perfectly fine. Additionally, we have at least the infrastructure in place for the alerts. So if we call this the alert handler. So this is over on the bot. Call this up. What's it actually? Bot. That's the bot package. Over here is the server package. So if we had an alert handler, the alert handler would more or less pass off information to the refreshing view. And I believe we were intending for this to be something WebSocket oriented. So that is, oops, actually this is doing, technically speaking. This would be where our WebSocket server comes into play, which this is what's communicating with OBS. So, yeah. So what's effectively missing right now is this link. Right now we have the message flowing from IRC to the sub handler, and right now we have the infrastructure necessary to have information flow from the bot to a web server that's available for OBS to poll. And then, actually, this technically wouldn't be. It technically wouldn't be OBS. It would be our HTML plus WebSocket view, which OBS is rendering. That's technically how it's working. Technically speaking. Hello, Marvel. Thank you so much for stopping by. Welcome back to the lab. How you doing, mate? So yeah, it's that part we don't have. We have that part. We have that part. Question is, how do we connect them? So originally, I think I was looking at this as, well, maybe the sub handler more or less follows the same pattern that the bot does, which is this kind of what's the word that I'm looking for? Well, actually, we could do a couple of things. Number one, we could have the sub handler connected directly to this alert handler, which are in separate packages. Or we could, if I'm thinking about this properly, I mean, right now I'm assuming that server handler or that alert handler is in the server package. Technically speaking, if we had another bot handler for this, then we could exchange the same information. but all that would be doing is basically creating a direct connection for the bot to the alert handler, and then we'd be having multiple handlers for alerts, which is not ideal, which we'll talk about here in just a second. Interesting. Doing great. How about you? I'm doing great, mate. I'm very tired. It was a bit of a long night, and unfortunately, I'm actually probably gonna have to end the stream here soon. I've got somebody coming over to do some work on the house. But I guess that's ultimately the question in terms of design. Do we want the bot to just directly call out to an alert handler? Sorry, I needed to complete that thought. Thinking about alerts, what I'm kind of thinking is something very similar to how Streamlabs does it, where it's one URL that you add into OBS, and then once you connect to that URL, so OBS is doing this part. When you give it a URL to the bot, say to the bot's alerts page, it'll download the HTML necessary to render it, and it will download or it will initiate a WebSocket connection back to the bot's web server that it's running. And then that's what enables the bidirectional communication. So a message goes to the WebSocket WebSocket connection that gets rendered by HTML as an alert for some period of time. That part still has to be built, obviously, but ideating. So that would mean, that would technically mean dynamic handler registration if we did it that way. So here's what I'm thinking. Let me bring this back up. There it is. Yep. Register handler called after bot already listening. Shit. So, oh, thank you. This is my my Jack Skellington lounge pants. So yeah, I am remembering this now. So what was initially in my head as I was kind of thinking through that is that, what if we did have a dynamic alert handler? So what that would mean is that when OBS starts, when OBS connects to this URL, the server goes, okay, this is a new WebSocket connection. I think I know what to do with this. So then what the server would do is it would call a new... Oh, why am I doing this in like so? The server, once it receives the request to connect, would call a register handler. Register handler would register one of these with that WebSocket connection. So it receives the connection, it establishes the connection, and then it hands off the reference to the handler. Right? So when it registers the handler, it creates a new alert handler. It handles it the WebSocket connection. So now there's this, effectively, this dynamically registered client, if you will, that the server can talk to. Alternatively, though, I guess what we could do is we could register the handler as we do normally. But initially, WebSocket connection is null or nil. So then what that would more or less look like is the bot starts the alert handler via register handler as it does normally. So this is wow, that is terrible. That is terrible looking. But the caveat is that that connection is nil until a client connects. So this be WS con, and then at some point in the future, assumingly, OBS connects or something connects, creates that WebSocket connection. So then the server hands that WebSocket connection off to the existing alert handler, which it would have a reference to, because in main we would set up one instance of alert handler, we would set up the server, and we would basically hand the alert handler to the server to say, hey, once you have something to do with this handler, here's where you're going to send that WebSocket connection. That could work, I think. And then we could build some handling logic around it, such as like if we lost connection for whatever reason, we could log out. We could do all kinds of stuff around that flow. That could work, I think. Yeah, I think that could work. The only thing that's kind of giving me a little bit of pause is this handoff, which will be interesting, but I at least think that gives us a good path forward. Does anybody disagree with that idea? It's a little abstract right now because we technically don't have some of those pieces built, but that seems like, because then we wouldn't have to worry about the sub handler also publishing messages. We could just rely on the publish set that the bot already does. So since the bot is already publishing these events, we just add another handler and reuse the same shit, I think. Architecture stuff. These high level design considerations. Love them. I think that could work. Find out. So if I were to do this, what would this look like? What would this look like? For starters, we would have bot alert handler. And we would more or less, yeah. We would more or less store the same, or we would use the same handler approach that we do from the other ones. This would be register alert handler. Now, this is where things get a little wonky, I think. Because the question still stands of how do I get that WebSocket connection up here? How do I set that WebSocket connection? I'm not much of a fan of what we're effectively doing, which is eventual mutation. Because what we'd be doing is we would be registering an alert handler with a nil WebSocket connection initially. And then somehow we would still have to, yeah, okay. I think this is what initially gave my brain pause, is how do I get that connection to the handler after the handler has already been registered? This is almost like shared global state, which I hate with a passion. Because I think in order for this to work, we would have to pass something in. Be something like type mutable WebSocket. Right? So in here, we would have our WebSocket, which is a mutable WebSocket. Our WS is a WebSocket connection, I think. That's all right. And then in order for this to work, something external would have to exist. So WS is a mutable WebSocket. We'd have to have something like is open. Return WS not equal to nil. So this would tell us whether or not the WebSocket is available or not. By the way, this is all just like theory crafting. Register alert handler. Publishes alert related events to be displayed by on-screen consumers, something like that. So the intention there is that there is a very explicit connection between the bot's event pipe, the event bus, if you will, and this server connection, which is the mutable WebSocket. But then the challenge here is that this is more or less just not available until later. So something external, let's say somewhere in main, like in main.go, or not in main.go, but in server.go. So on connect, we would have to do something like this. And so now what we're effectively doing is we would do that. We'd have is open. We'd have open, which is really just a thing. I don't think we need an error in this case. We would need async.mutex. And then we would do ws.lock, defer ws.unlock. In this case, this would be a connection is a WebSocket.connection. And this would absolutely need to be a pointer to. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Sorry, catching up on chat. Could you implement some sort of internal event broadcast, which would totally decouple us into receiver? Yeah, that's effectively what we have. The next closest thing that I feel like could technically decouple it, but it wouldn't technically decouple it, would be like passing in some type of a channel of WebSocket connections. God forbid. But I don't think that would work, because if I remember correctly, you can't pass references on a channel. Is that right? But regardless, something external would still be passing in a connection to the bot. But in order for that to work, there would have to be this global mutatable struct somewhere, which would probably be in main, to be fair. So actually, we would have, like, I don't like this idea, because this is basically shared global state, just saying. Here we would have the mutable WebSocket. Inside of server.go, which would be past mutable WebSocket. So server.go would receive this mutable WebSocket object, as we're choosing to call it. It will receive that object, and then once a WebSocket connection is established and verified, then we would do ws.open with that connection. And additionally, down here, we would have register alert handler with ws. Actually, this would be up here. All right, so we do something like that. And so that would mean that down here would pass a mutable WebSocket, and then we'd have to do a check. So if not ws dot is open, then continue, return, something of that nature. So if it's not open, then technically this works as a or this operates as a no op. Otherwise, once we get to that point, okay, now we've got WebSocket, we've got a WebSocket connection. Off we go. Here is where we would do send JSON payload to consumer for rendering. And yes, I was thinking through this by writing code, because that is how I do. I write code while I think. I don't like this idea. I really don't like this idea. It also makes well, it makes this untestable, which is great. I'm not sure how I would want to approach this. So I guess the other option, so this would be very directly passing it a connection, a WebSocket connection. We could pass it some kind of abstraction, or we could, well, no, that wouldn't work either, because what I was thinking was like somehow we get a reference to a channel that we would send messages to, and then on the other side would be the WebSocket server, but it's the same bloody thing. And just to call it out, like this part is more or less the problem. So this is where the idea, it doesn't necessarily break down, but I am insanely hesitant about what is effectively shared global state. So shared global state in this case would be an object that's instantiated in main that is mutated by one side and then consumed by another side. And if we maintained that, it could technically work. There's just something about it that's just not sitting well with me. Mostly thinking about something like a retry. But then I guess if the connection's severed for any reason, so if the connection's severed, think through that. So the server basically is maintaining that connection, and it's passing off a reference. But then if that connection gets severed for any reason, what's effectively going to happen is that WebSocket is going to become invalid. And so what OBS would have to do is effectively do a reconnect, which will come back to the server, which would execute the exact same mutation logic, and it would effectively just overwrite the connection, which I think would technically work. Technically? But how does this break? That's what I'm trying to dig through in my head is, technically it could work, but how does it, that's not particularly interesting. How can it break? We instantiate it in main.go. It instantiates as null. Server is mutating it. Alert handler is consuming it. At server.go, when a WebSocket connection is made for alerts, it would initiate a new connection, and then we would call alertws.open, which is a sync locked operation, bare minimum. But we wouldn't be reading from this connection. That is one caveat, is that this is a write only connection. So we wouldn't have a read loop, is more or less what I was thinking about. What I was thinking about was, if that connection reconnected for any reason, or if we had any reason to reconnect, there is an element of retry here that we could do. Yeah, we could try more or less an exponential retry for this logic. Retry to account for disconnects. So that way, so that we don't lose a message. But this is all that this would ever be doing. Open reassigns the reference to the open alerts WebSocket. I like to call out when things are mutex locked. And technically it wouldn't be open, all things considered. It would be what? Assign? Connection? Yeah, probably be something like that. Mutable WebSocket connection. You pass the WebSocket connection, off you go. Is open or not? Is open is connected, maybe? Is the convention not to use the is naming? Can't remember the convention. Crap, I can't remember. Nothing wrong with providing getters and setters, yada yada yada. Owner, the owner, da 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 da. Setter function will likely be called set owner. Sure. Yeah. Say connected. Connected and set connection. Why not? That way it's explicit. Like we are setting something here. And then connected is just more Englishy of is the WebSocket connected? So connected checks if we have a WebSocket connection at all. And wasn't there a... Was there not a is closed? Huh. I keep forgetting that that's a thing. It bothers the shit out of me. Okay. Whatever. Also, I am going to change this because that is going to confuse the shit out of me. So now this would be, if not ws.connected, retry for disconnects, otherwise we break out, sans write to JSON the representation of the event. Now, yes, I know I'm technically like solutioning right now, and that's because I think in my brain I've convinced myself that this would work. And so in the effort of make it work, make it right, make it pretty in that order, preferably, I think I'm leaning towards I would like to go down this path until I prove that it's not viable. Because thinking about it, at least thinking about it and designing it, I can't find a gap that it would fall through. And thus must... Maybe we should call this write only. Write only unsafe WebSocket. That would be going into the extreme of explicitness. Like, hey, BT dubs, number 1, this is write only. Number 2, it's unsafe. It could potentially be changing. It could potentially be nil, and therefore you should be guarding against that insanely. Represents a potentially changing a write only WebSocket that, how do we want to put this? That should be accessed, or not accessed, but should be used defensively, as there is no guarantee the connection was initialized or is currently connected. There's a lot of context in here that probably deserves being dropped in here. So alert handler connects the bot broadcast event broadcast to a potentially connected client Thank you for the lurk, Fuel. I appreciate it. We'll probably be done here in a couple of minutes, but I appreciate the lurk. So it connects the bot event broadcast to a potentially connected client listening over a WebSocket connection. Because we cannot guarantee that this connection will be available on start, we consider the WebSocket to be unsafe. We only ever write to this WebSocket. We should never read from it. Effectively, global mutable state, and as such, we should be as defensive about its use as that assumption of control. So in main.go, creates the reference and passes it around. Server.go handles actual connection references. So that's a lot. It's basically right. If you ever open this file, you would be greeted with this paragraph, and it's purposeful. Like, hey, this was intentional, at least based on where we currently are. This was intentional. We don't like it. Here's how it works. And then what we can do and put this down here. And then I think that sets us up. So what we would need to do is inside of main.go, subs, or enable all. Then here is where we would do the write only unsafe WebSocket. Something like that. That's where the challenge is that the server well, so I think what we can do is something like this. Alerts link between the bot and the web API. Then here we would do chatbot chatbot.register alert handler WS. Oops, this would be at WS. We still need to implement that. The server would take this reference. This would be another one. So this is alerts enabled, checks the alerts feature flag, alerts enabled, alerts.enabled, return flag value. I love that that's such a rinse, wash, repeat. So inside of main, that should now be happy. We would register the alert handler with that WS, and now the server needs to be made aware. Oh, I really don't like this, but bot dot write only unsafe WebSocket, something of that nature. Ugh. Alert WebSocket is a bot dot write only. Yeah, this is where I kind of start to question it a little bit. But yeah, so then what we would need to do is that here to do receive WebSocket connection for alerts and assign to alert WebSocket. So if I'm tracing this properly as kind of the closing for today's stream, so inside of main.go is where we would initialize the reference to this write-only unsafe WebSocket. If alerts are enabled, then we will register the alert handler for this. What we could probably also do is something like this. And we could set the WebSocket. So to do, should we have a setter for WebSocket if alerts enabled? That way, if alerts aren't enabled, then we won't actually accept the WebSocket connection just to save resources, but that can be an optimization. So main initializes it. If alerts are enabled, it registers the chat or the alert handler with that unsafe WebSocket. Since it's a write-only unsafe WebSocket, we have to be defensive against that WebSocket connection. We make no guarantees that it's there. And if it's not, yeet out. If it is, then we'll write JSON. We'll do that same process. And then on server, once this is actually hooked up, we receive a WebSocket connection. We alter that alert WebSocket, and that change basically propagates its way over to the alert handler. I am going to be thinking about that feature a good bit because the developer in me, the C developer in me, but just the developer in general in me, hates global mutatable state. I hate it. I hate it with a fiery passion. So I'm going to probably try to think of a better way to do that because I don't like referencing state that is being mutated somewhere else. So yeah, I'm going to be thinking about that. But until that time, that is all the time that I have for today. Thank you so much for stopping by. I appreciate all of you being here. Thank you to everybody that participated in chat today. Stay curious, and we'll see you next time. Take care, everybody.